In this episode, I'll show you how to use seamless paper to create great portraits in this studio.
Adorama TV presents Digital Photography One-on-One, where we answer your questions. Here's your host, Mark Wallace.
Hi everybody, welcome again to Digital Photography One-on-One. I'm Mark Wallace. Well, this week we have a question from James in sunny Honolulu, Hawaii. James asked, what is seamless paper and how do you use it? Well, James, seamless paper are rolls of paper that come in different sizes, traditionally 9 feet or 12 feet wide by different lengths. And you can use those, you can mount them on a wall using special brackets, or you can use a background stand. And they're great because you can use them in the studio, you can use them on location, and you can use them in a home studio. They come in all kinds of different colors, and they're really a lot of different things that you can do with seamless paper. And so we're gonna hop into the studio and show you all you need to know about seamless paper. All right, I'm here in the studio and we have a bunch of different seamless rolls of paper. And right here I have a seamless roll of white, and behind me you can see that I have a roll of seamless gray. Now the seamless paper comes in a couple different flavors. There are papers that have a core in them, in other words a cardboard tube in the middle of those, and some that don't. And so if you have a core inside your seamless paper, well, you can mount it on a support system like I have back here. This is an X-Pan support system made by Manfrotto, and so these just sort of go on the end of the cores, and there's a cardboard tube that will hold it up on a support stand like that. And it works really well. Now, if you don't have paper that has a core, you can use a standard background support system like this one that has a pole that runs all the way down the middle to make sure it supports that. Or you can use the pole on paper with cores if you want to take these on location. So it's really easy to mount this seamless paper. In fact, some people even use C-stands and just put an arm in the middle of that. So you can do it almost any way you want. Now over here we have a few different rolls of seamless paper, and we have all kinds of different colors. And so seamless paper comes in a variety of colors. In fact, many dozens of different colors. And so you can get swatch books and pick the exact color that you want. And this is a seamless roll of white. And this is normally how seamless paper shows up. And it's got this really important thing here that says keep upright. And you want to store all of your paper vertically like this, because if you don't, you're going to have an issue. In fact, we have that issue over here on this seamless roll of gray. And if you look up to the top, when I roll this up and down, you can see that there's a big wobble in that. And that wobble is because we didn't store it vertically, and it started sagging between those support systems. And what's going to happen is now we're going to have this wobble that shows up in our seamless paper, and it's not going to look very smooth. So make sure you store all your stuff vertically if possible. So that's really important. Now that we have just sort of the basics, what's really important is to understand all the different options and what you can do with seamless paper. And so we're going to walk you through different lighting setups and some options and show you how you can do that. And so to help us, here's Lachelle, and she's going to help us set up all these different lights. We're going to get some great pictures. And so you ready to get going?
Yes.
All right, let's do it. All right, now that we have this up on our stand, what we need to do is make sure that this bottom part falls flat. And so one of the tricks you can get is you can buy one of these small aluminum poles, and this also is made by Manfrotto, so you hold that there, Kelsey. And then what we're going to do is going to mount this to this seamless paper. Now these poles, they actually come with this plastic thing that clips on, and in my experience, it's worthless. It's such a pain to put on there. So what you can do is go to just a little home supply center or something like that, and get these little teeny A clamps. And this is what makes it so much easier. Just put this at the very bottom of your roll, and then put the clamp on there like that, and it works just fine. And if you have 3 clamps, get 3 clamps. You can also put one right in the middle, something like this, and then you're all good to go. And so you might have to adjust it a little bit, once you get that center one in there. But what that will do is over time, that will help to make sure that everything falls flat, and it'll hold your paper secure. So that's just a little trick to make sure your paper rolls up and down real easily. Well, now that we have this up, I want to show you some tricks, first of all, for using seamless white paper, because it is probably the most common seamless paper that's sold, and you can do all kinds of things with it. You can do some high-key stuff, you can do low-key, you can make this white, you can make it gray, you can make it really dark, and you can do all kinds of things just by positioning your lights in your model. So we're going to do that next. All right, to get started, what I want to show you is how you light the subject and the background separately. Now this applies to all different colors of seamless paper, and it's one of the questions we get all the time, and that is I'm shooting on white and I have problems with shadows and I can't get the white background to be white. And so let me show you this principle because it will affect all of the different lighting setups we're doing. And so to illustrate this, what we're going to do is we're going to start with one light. So we only have this light turned on right now. We don't have this light turned on. This one is turned off. And so what I first want to show you is if you have your light close and your subject is close to the background is going to be very bright, but you're going to get a shadow. So let me show you that shot first. I'm going to come over here. We've already metered this. I think we're shooting at about f10. And so LaShawn, look right at me. Beautiful. I'm going to take this shot. Great. All right. Now when I look at the shot, we can clearly see that we have a nice white background, but we have this shadow right here. Now to get rid of that shadow, we need to move our subject away from the background. So come on out to our position over here. We're going to move our light back about 12 feet, something like that. And so Kelsey set that all up. We've already metered this previously. So let me take this shot. And again, LaShawn, look right at me. Beautiful, just like that. Okay, now when I look at that shot, what's happened is our shadow is gone, but that background back there has fallen to gray. And the reason it's gray is because the light is metered correctly here. And so it is exposed the same as we had back there, except for it's falling off. And so back here it's a gray and it's not exposed correctly. And so to understand that, make sure you watch our video on the inverse square law, and it'll really help you understand why that's turning to gray instead of white. Now the thing is, it might not be as readily apparent, but if you're using red or green or blue or any other color of paper instead of white, the same thing is going to happen, except for it's going to just go to a dark green or dark blue or a dark whatever you have. And so to keep that color consistent or to make a white background stay white, what you have to do is you have to add another light. Sometimes you have to add 2 or 3 or 4 lights depending on the size of the background. So I'm going to turn this one on, and we've already metered this light. And so this light right here, it actually meters 1 stop brighter than our model. And so that's about what I like to have that background. And so LaShawn is metered right here at f10. Our background we've metered at f14, so it's brighter. Now what we want to do here is make sure that none of the light from our background light spills. We also want to add a little fill. So I'm going to put this reflector here. That's going to block that light to make sure it doesn't hit LaShawn. And if you have an umbrella or something, this is really important. You can either use it as a reflector or just put a flag there. It's going to bounce some light in, and it's going to make sure we have separation. So now let me take a shot, and you will see that LaShawn is going to stay the same exact exposure, but our background, wham, yep, it's nice and bright. Now one of the things that you really have to make sure you do is when you're lighting the background, make sure that you don't put too much light back there. That's one of the mistakes that you might make. So don't take this and crank it up all the way thinking that that's just going to blow out this light, because if you're using white especially, that light is going to be reflecting back. So it's going to hit the back of your model and it's going to go right into your lens, and that can cause lens flare. So don't do it too much. Don't overdo that background light. Try to keep it at about 1 stop, maybe a little bit less. Well, now that we know that, we can move on and start looking at a bunch of different lighting setups. All right, now that we know the principles about lighting the background and the subject separately, let's put that into practice. And so what I want to do here is LaShawn has this awesome earth tone sweater, and we have this nice dark gray background. And what I want is a very nice soft portrait that's just sort of pretty. And so here is the picture that we created earlier. And you can see that this is really a nice shot, and it's done with just 2 lights. And so let me walk you through how we have these set up and how we're using the seamless background to get this nice subtle effect. So the first thing that we did was we made sure we had the right color of seamless white. And so I really like the earth tones, this dark gravy sort of gray brownish sweater, and so I wanted that to sort of blend in with this background. And so I'm using this dark gray paper. Now the reason I'm using gray and not white is for us to get the white to be that dark, we'd really have to shoot a long ways away, and I don't want to do that. And the second thing is I want to add a splash of light to that background, and so if this was white, it would show up as white and not this dark gray. So we're using dark gray. So what we're doing here is we have first we're going to start over here with this light right here. This is our background and our separation light. And what we have on the front of this, as you zip around here, you can see that we have a really, really small 5-degree grid. So what that grid does is it just takes the light and it takes it from here and it adds just a splash of light right there. And what that's going to do is let this fall into almost complete darkness. but it will add a sort of a halo of light behind LaShawn. So we'll get this light right back here. And so what we did is I looked through the lens of my camera, and then Kelsey actually moved that around until it was exactly where it needed to be, and we locked it down. Now for our key light, what we used is this 7-foot octabox. This is our flashpoint octabox. And I positioned it where it just hits LaShawn straight on, and when we shot, she is facing right into this. And so she's looking this direction, and that gives us super, super soft light. And to make sure we had nice shallow depth of field, I shot with my 85mm 1.2. I didn't shoot at 1.2, we shot at 4.5, but that still gives us really nice shallow depth of field. And so LaShawn's sweater starts to fall out of focus, and it's just a really, really nice effect. So we're gonna shoot a couple of these, and so you can see how this simple portrait setup can really give you a lot of punch. All right, well, let me show you another setup, and this is a one light setup, and this is a really easy way to light a background and a subject with just one light. You don't have to have two. And we're going to do this with a trick called the inverse square law, which we already covered in a previous episode. So if you're not sure what the inverse square law is, make sure you watch that because it's very, very important information. And so what we have here is we have our camera set up right in the middle of the room, and then we have our key light right up here, and that key light is way up in the air. It's about 10 feet in the air, and it is about 14 feet from LaShawn, and LaShawn is about 9 feet from the background. Now because of that light fall off is going to be pretty consistent between our model and our background, which means we don't have to light those two things separately. But when you use one light on a background like this, you get a problem, and that problem is a shadow. So playing the part of the shadow today, we have Kelsey, who's waving madly behind me, and she is going to show you where the shadow would be if we moved our light. So you notice we have our light way off to the side. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of our camera really fast so it's not in the way. But I want to show you the relationship between our light and our shadow. So I'm going to walk over here. Our shadow is way to the side, and so you can see that our shadow is off the paper. Now if I move this closer to where the camera would be, the shadow would fall right onto the paper and it wouldn't be very flattering. So to get rid of that, I have to move this back over here to the side, and our shadow is going to move right with it, and it'll fall off the background, and we're going to have a nice, easy, pleasant light. So you can see the difference between the shots that we did with the light placed close to the camera, where we have a shadow on the background, and the light moved away where the shadow is gone. You'll also notice that this is just a sea of color, and it's not very flattering. It's just sort of flat. And so there's a trick you can do in post-production, specifically in Lightroom. You can just add a vignette. It's a dark edge outside of the picture, and that will just sort of soften that really solid color there if you don't want that, and that allows you to get a really nice portrait really quickly with just one light. Okay, another thing you can do with seamless paper is use it to emulate a colored wall. And so what we did here is we wanted a splash of red, and so we used this red seamless paper to make this informal little living room set. Now to add some realism to this, what we did was we repurposed this background stand and then hung some curtains that we got from a home improvement store and just put them about a foot away from the wall. And that allows it to look a little bit more believable and not just a flat surface. The other thing we did was we used some double-sided tape to actually place some pictures. We just taped them right on the paper, and so that makes the wall look a little bit more believable. So it's not just paper. It looks like it has a little bit more sturdiness to it. And then we added some real inexpensive furniture, and then we had LaShawn sit right here on this chair, and we had her standing, and we shot some pictures. Now the other way we lit this, we actually just used a small softbox right here, and this gives us some very directional light that's not too hard, but it does have some nice shadows, and so shadows were cast all through here, and that gives us the illusion of a little bit more depth, and again, it makes it look a little bit more believable. And so we shot some pictures, and you can see the results right here. Well, thanks, James. I hope this was helpful. You can see that you can do lots and lots of things with seamless paper. Now, one of the things that I want to remind everybody is if you're like James and you have a question about photography, please send those to me at askmark@adorama.com. And do not forget, we have a bunch of videos that are all available at the Adorama Learning Center, and they cover all kinds of things from studio lighting to creative photography to beginners to advanced stuff, metering, and even video stuff. So make sure you check those out. Well, thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you again next week.
This episode is brought to you by Adorama TV. Visit the Adorama Learning Center where you'll find photography tips and techniques, links to the gear used in this episode, and related videos. For all the latest photography, video, and computer gear, visit adorama.com. And the next time you're in New York City, visit our store located on 18th Street between 5th and 6th Avenue.
So this is just red paper right here, and I've got some, sorry. 8. I forgot to shoot horizontal again, dang it. I totally forgot to shoot horizontal. Sorry.
Digital Photography 1-on-1 is written and produced by Snap Factory. For more information about our workshops, visit snapfactory.com.